The Great Hall of the Galactic Council was the largest room ever built by living beings. It floated in space, far from any star, and inside it sat representatives from over 300 species. Some had scales. Some had wings. Some were made of light itself. They came from every corner of the known galaxy, and they had been meeting like this for 10,000 years. In the back row, in the smallest seat, sat Ambassador Unveiled of Earth. She was a short woman with black hair and a gentle smile. She wore a simple blue uniform while the other ambassadors wore gold and jewels. She spoke softly, while others shouted, and when she raised her hand to speak, the council often pretended not to see her. Today was no different. "The Vorn Dominion grows stronger every cycle," said the Mektari ambassador. He was a tall creature with silver skin and 4 arms. His voice echoed through the hall. "They have taken 6 more worlds this season. We must act." The other ambassadors murmured in agreement. The Vorn were a warrior species, violent and hungry for power. They had been conquering smaller worlds for decades, and now they were becoming a real threat. "We should increase our fleet production," said the Orvani delegate. She was covered in blue feathers and spoke with a musical voice. "Double our ships. Triple our weapons. And who will pay for this?" asked the Thalan representative. He looked like a floating crystal, and his words came out as vibrations in the air. "War is expensive. Peace is profitable." The debate went on for hours. Unveiled listened carefully, taking notes on her small device. She understood their fear. The Vorn were dangerous. But she also knew something that no one else in this room knew. She knew that humanity was not what it appeared to be. Finally, the council speaker, a large being named Vellum with gray skin and many eyes, looked at her with something like amusement. "The human delegate wishes to speak," he said. A few ambassadors laughed quietly. Unveiled stood. She was the smallest person in the room, but her voice was clear. "Earth offers its support in this matter," she said. "We have 200 ships in our planetary defense fleet. We would be happy to contribute them to any joint military action." The laughter was louder now. The Mektari ambassador shook his head. 200 ships, he said. "Child, the Vorn have 20,000. Your entire fleet would not survive a single hour against their smallest battle group." "We appreciate the offer," said Speaker Vellum, and his tone made it clear that he did not appreciate it at all. "But perhaps humanity should focus on other contributions. Science, art, medicine. Leave the fighting to those who are built for it." Ow. It was a warm smile, the kind a grandmother might give to a rude child. "Of course," she said. "We understand our place." She sat down. The debate continued without her. Later that day, a Vorn commander named Droll stood before the council. He was huge, covered in black armor, and his red eyes burned with contempt. He had come to deliver a warning. "The Vorn Dominion does not recognize this council's authority," he said. "We take what we need. We destroy what stands in our way. Any species that opposes us will be erased from existence." His eyes moved across the room, stopping briefly on the human section. "Some of you are not even worth conquering," he said. "The humans, for example. Soft. Weak. Your entire military could not scratch the paint on my personal shuttle." Several ambassadors looked at Unveiled, expecting anger, but she just sat there with the same gentle smile. "You may be right," she said softly. "We are a very peaceful people." Droll laughed. It was an ugly sound. "Peaceful," he repeated. "Yes, that is a good word for food." He left the chamber. The session ended. Unveiled walked out quietly, nodding politely to the other delegates who did not nod back. That night, in her small quarters on the station, she made a call to Earth. The face that appeared on her screen belonged to Admiral Kong Teho. He was an older man, with gray hair and calm eyes. He wore no decorations on his uniform. He did not need them. "I watched the session," he said. "You handled it well." "They see us as children," Unveiled replied. "Weak and useless. Good. Let them believe it." The Admiral smiled slightly. "How long have we been part of this Federation now?" 80 years. And in 80 years, Not once have they asked to inspect our planet. Not once have they wondered why our population numbers don't match our visible infrastructure. Not once have they questioned why our small fleet uses technology they cannot understand. Yunhana nodded. They see what they want to see. Exactly. Admiral Kung leaned back. General Park reports that we are at full readiness. Project Deep Root is complete. All we need now is a reason. Let us hope we never need one. Yes, the Admiral said. Let us hope. But both of them knew that hope was not a strategy. The galaxy was a dangerous place. And the Vorn were growing bolder every day, far below Earth's surface. Beneath the Pacific Ocean, something massive waited in the darkness. It was a shipyard, but not like any the galaxy had seen. It stretched for hundreds of kilometers, and inside it, ships were being built. Not 200 ships. Not 2,000, 40,000 warships, each one carrying weapons that humanity had never shown to anyone. Weapons that could fold space, that could crush matter itself, that could turn stars into bombs. For 80 years, humanity had smiled and nodded and sat in the back row. For 80 years, they had been called weak and useless and unimportant. But the thing about humans was this. They had invented the ambush before they had invented writing. They had survived ice ages and plagues and wars that killed millions. They had walked on their moon and split the atom and mapped their own DNA. And they had learned long ago that the best way to win a fight was to make sure your enemy never saw you coming, in the darkness beneath the sea. The ships waited, and aboard them soldiers trained for a war that everyone prayed would never come. But prayer, like hope, was not a strategy. And the galaxy was about to learn what humanity really was. 3 months passed after the council meeting. The Vorn continued their conquests. The Federation continued its debates. And humanity continued to smile and wait. Then the Vorn made a mistake. Relay. Station Cora 7 was a trading hub floating in neutral space. It was shaped like a great wheel, spinning slowly against the stars. 12,000 humans lived there alongside merchants and travelers from 100 different species. It was a place of business and friendship, where species that might be enemies elsewhere could sit together and share. Emil Dr. M. Jian worked in the station's medical center. She was a small woman with tired eyes and gentle hands. She'd been a doctor for 30 years, and she had seen everything from broken bones to alien diseases. She loved her work. She loved helping people, no matter what species they were. On the morning of the attack, she was treating a Mektari child who had fallen and hurt his arm. The boy was crying. She was singing a soft song to calm him down. That was when the first explosion hit. The station shook. Lights flickered. Alarms began to scream. Dr. Im grabbed the child and ran for the emergency shelter, but before she could reach it, she saw something through the window that made her stop. Ships. Hundreds of Vorn warships. Surrounding the station like wolves around a wounded animal, the attack came without warning. The Vorn did not ask for surrender. They did not send a message. They simply opened fire. The first wave of missiles destroyed 3 civilian transports that were trying to escape. 2,000 people died in seconds. Families, children, workers going home, Captain. No Wu Jin was commanding the small human escort ship HFY when the attack began. His ship was designed for protection, not war. It had light weapons and thin armor. Against the Vorn fleet, it was like a paper boat in a hurricane. But he did not run. All power to shields, he ordered. Move between the station and the Vorn fleet. We will buy time for evacuation. His crew looked at him with fear in their eyes, but they obeyed. The HFY flew into the storm of fire, drawing attention away from the fleeing civilians. At the same time, Captain No sent a message to the Galactic Federation. This is Captain No Wu Jin of the Earth vessel HFY. Relay Station Cora 7 is under attack by Vorn forces. We have 12,000 civilians, including many humans. We need immediate military support. Please respond. The response came from Council Speaker Vellum himself. His voice was calm, almost bored. Captain, we have received your message. However, military intervention requires a formal vote of the Council. This process will take approximately 6 standard days. We advise you to negotiate with the Vorn for a peaceful resolution. Captain No stared at the screen. Outside his window, he could see civilian ships exploding. He could hear the screams on the emergency channels. 6 days, he said quietly. We will all be dead in 6 hours. That is unfortunate, Speaker Vellum replied, but rules must be followed. The Council will convene as soon as possible. The channel closed. On the station, Dr. Im Jion was working in a medical bay that was falling apart around her. The ceiling had collapsed in 3 places. Power was failing. She had no nurses left, only volunteers who did not know how to stop bleeding or set bones. She worked anyway. She saved who she could, and when she could not save them, she held their hands and told them they were not alone. She was recording everything on her medical device. Every death, every injury, every moment of horror. She did not know why she was doing it. Perhaps she thought someone should remember, aboard the lead Vorn battleship. High Arbiter, Morath, watched the destruction with satisfaction. He was a massive creature, even by Vorn standards. His armor was decorated with the skulls of enemies he had killed personally. His eyes were the color of blood. Humans resist, one of his officers reported. One small ship is blocking our assault. Morath looked at the tactical display. The tiny Earth vessel was darting between missiles, absorbing hits that should have destroyed it 10 times over. It was annoying. Destroy it, he said. Then finish the station. I want no survivors. All of them, High Arbiter. There are children aboard. Children grow into adults. Adults cause problems. Destroy everything. Far away in the Great Hall of the Galactic Council, Ambassador Yun Hana watched the battle on a display screen. Her face showed no emotion, but her hands were shaking. She stood. The other delegates barely noticed. They were busy arguing about procedure. I request permission to speak, she said. Speaker Vellum sighed. The human delegate is recognized. I formally request that Earth be allowed to handle this matter independently. Without waiting for the council vote? Laughter rippled through the chamber. The Mectari ambassador shook his head. Handle it. He said, with what? Your 200 little ships cannot reach Cora 7 in time. Even if they could, the Vorn would destroy them in minutes. Let us try, Yun, Hannah said. Her voice was still soft, but there was something new in it. Something cold. Speaker Vellum smiled. It was the smile of someone watching a child try to lift something too heavy. If you wish to sacrifice your fleet for nothing, that is your right. Permission granted. Yun Hana bowed slightly. Then she said something that made the entire chamber go quiet. You misunderstand. We were never showing you our military. We were showing you our patience. She walked out. No one tried to stop her. No one even knew what to say. The Mectari ambassador turned to the Orvani delegate. What did she mean by that? The Orvani shook her feathered head. I do not know. But I suddenly feel very cold. At that moment, on Earth, Admiral Kung Taho was watching the same battle. His face was stone. His eyes were fire. General Park Seo stood beside him. Sir, the Council has refused to act. The Vorn are killing our people. I know. Do we have authorization? Admiral Kang was silent for a long moment. He had hoped this day would never come. He had prayed for peace. He had believed in patience, but patience had limits. And the bodies of 2,000 humans were floating in space, killed by creatures who thought they could murder without consequence. Authorization granted, he said quietly. Wake them up. Deep beneath the ocean, lights began to flicker on. Engines that had slept for decades began to hum. Soldiers who had trained their entire lives for a moment they hoped would never come began to move toward their stations. The galaxy had made a mistake. It had confused human kindness for human weakness. That mistake was about to be corrected. Beneath the mountain called Baekdu, there was a room that did not exist on any map. It was carved from solid rock, 3 kilometers underground, and it was filled with screens and computers and officers who had been waiting for this moment for their entire careers. Admiral Kang Tae-ho stood at the center of the room. Around him, the command staff of humanity's true military waited for his orders. "Status report," he said. General Park Seo stepped forward. He was a large man with a scarred face and steady hands. He had never seen real combat. None of them had. But they had trained for it every day for 40 years. "All assets are ready, Admiral. The Pacific Fleet is at full power. The Atlantic reserves are activated. The orbital stations are online. The fold space generators are charged." "How many ships?" 42,716 combat vessels, plus 18 million autonomous drones, plus the orbital defense platforms, plus, he paused, plus the other things. Weapons that had no names because no one wanted to name them. Weapons that could break planets. Weapons that humanity had built in secret and prayed they would never use in another part of the facility. Chief Engineer Odahi was watching her life's work come alive. She was an old woman now, with white hair and thick glasses, but her mind was still sharp. She had designed the first fold space engine when she was 25 years old. She had spent the next 50 years making it better. "Beautiful," she whispered as the ships began to move. "They are so beautiful." Her assistant, a young man named Kwon Jae, stood beside her. His face was pale. "Engineer, may I ask a question?" "Of course. Why did we hide all of this?" "For 80 years we sat in the back row. We let them laugh at us. We let them call us weak. Why?" He smiled sadly. "Because we remembered what we did to ourselves." She turned to face him. "Before we joined the galaxy, humans fought each other for thousands of years. We killed millions of our own kind. We burned cities. We destroyed nations. When we finally looked up at the stars, we were afraid. Not of what we might find out there. We were afraid of what we might become, so we hid our power. We hoped we would never need it. We hoped that kindness would be enough. We hoped that the galaxy was better than we were." She looked back at the screens, where warships were rising from the ocean like ancient gods waking from sleep. "We hoped wrong." On the surface of the ocean, fishing boats and cargo ships had no idea what was happening beneath them. But then the water began to move. Massive waves formed out of nowhere. The sea itself seemed to be boiling. And then the ships came up. They were black and sleek, shaped like arrows, and they moved without sound. First 10, then 100, then 1,000. They rose from the water and kept rising, climbing into the sky, blocking out the sun. Across the world, the same thing was happening. Ships emerged from hidden bases in mountains, in deserts, in the ice of the poles. They dropped out of asteroid fields where they had been sleeping for decades. They materialized from fold space pockets that no scanner could detect. Within 1 hour, skies of Earth were filled with warships. And the galaxy was about to learn that everything it knew about humanity was wrong. Fleet Captain Shin Haeon stood on the bridge of the flagship Gwangito. It was the largest ship humanity had ever built, 3 kilometers long, and it carried enough weapons to destroy a small moon. He was a quiet man, Captain Shin. He did not give speeches. He did not inspire with words. He simply did his job perfectly, every time. "Navigation," he said. "Plot a course to relay station Cora 7. Sir, at standard speed, that journey will take 14 days. We are not using standard speed. Activate the fold space drive." The navigation officer hesitated. "Sir, the fold space drive has never been tested over this distance. The calculations say it should work, but no one has ever actually done it." Captain Shin looked at him with calm eyes. "Then we will be the first. Our people are dying. Every minute we wait, more of them die. Activate the drive." The officer swallowed hard and obeyed. Throughout the fleet, the same order was given. 42,000 ships activated engines that bent space itself, creating tunnels through dimensions that normal physics said should not exist. Chief Engineer Odahi watched the readings from her control room. The power levels were beyond anything the galaxy had seen. The energy being used in this single jump could power most civilizations for a century. "Jump in 30 seconds, announced the computer. Admiral Kung Teho opened a channel to the entire fleet. His voice was calm, but every human in the armada could feel the weight behind his words. "This is Admiral Kong. In a few moments we will arrive at Korra 7. The Vorn have attacked our people. They have killed our families. They have laughed at our grief. For 80 years we have been patient. For 80 years we have been kind. That time is over." Paused. When he spoke again, his voice was ice. "Today the galaxy will learn what humanity really is. Today, they will see what we have been hiding, and they will understand, finally, why we hid it. Retrieve our people. Protect the innocent, and leave no enemy vessel intact. The galaxy is watching. Make sure they remember what they see." The countdown reached 0. Space bent. Light stretched. Reality itself seemed to scream, and then 42,000 human warships vanished from Earth's orbit. At Korra 7, the Vorn were still attacking. Captain Nowujin's ship was barely holding together. Half his crew was dead. The station was on fire. The screams of the dying filled every channel. High Arbiter, Marath was growing impatient. "Why is this taking so long? Destroy them all, and let us move on." "High Arbiter, we are detecting an energy anomaly." "What kind of anomaly?" Before anyone could answer, space itself tore open. Not in one place, but in thousands of places at once. The darkness was suddenly filled with light, and from that light came ships. Human ships. More ships than anyone had ever seen in one place. More ships than most species had in their entire military. More ships than should have been possible for a species that everyone thought was weak and useless and unimportant. 42,000 warships materialized around Relay Station Korra 7, surrounding the 800 Vorn vessels like wolves surrounding a single rabbit. High Arbiter. Morith stared at his tactical display. His red eyes went wide. His mouth opened, but no words came out. Across the galaxy, in every council chamber, every military base, every throne room, beings of every species watched the live broadcast and felt something they had never felt before when looking at humanity. They felt fear. The battle was about to begin, and it would change everything. For a long moment, nothing moved. The Vorn fleet hung in space, surrounded by an ocean of human warships. The stars themselves seemed to hold their breath. "High Arbiter." Marath was the first to speak. His voice came through every channel, filled with confusion and anger. "This is High Arbiter Moroth of the Vorn Dominion. Identify yourselves and explain this intrusion. You are interfering with official Dominion business." On the bridge of the Guangetto, Fleet Captain Shin Hyan listened to the message. His face showed nothing. His officers waited for his response. He opened a channel. His voice was calm, quiet, almost gentle. "High Arbiter Morath, this is Fleet Captain Shin Hye of the Earth Defense Force. You are ordered to power down your weapons. Release all prisoners and surrender your fleet immediately." Morath laughed. It was a loud, ugly sound. "Surrender? To humans? You may have more ships than we expected, but your kind is weak. Soft. You do not have the stomach for real war. I have conquered 100 worlds. I have killed millions. You do not frighten me." Captain Shin did not respond immediately. He looked at the tactical display, where 800 Vorn ships faced 42,000 human vessels. He thought about the bodies floating in space. He thought about Dr. Imjian, still trapped on the burning station. He thought about Captain Nowujin, who had held the line with a broken ship and a dying crew. Then he spoke again. His voice was still calm, but now there was something underneath it. Something cold and ancient and terrible. 80 years ago, when humanity joined the Galactic Federation, we made a promise. We said that we would be peaceful. We said that we would be kind. We said that we would not bring our violence to the stars. He paused. But we also made a warning. We said that humanity does not forgive attacks on its children. You laughed at that warning. You ignored it. You thought we were too weak to keep our word. On every Vorn ship, on every Federation broadcast station, on every screen in the galaxy, humanity watched their captains stand in judgment. You killed 2,000 of our people today, families, children, workers who had never hurt anyone. You killed them because you thought you could, because you thought there would be no consequences. You were wrong. He gave a single nod. Throughout the human fleet, officers entered commands that would be studied by military experts for centuries. All ships engage. No survivors. The battle lasted exactly 11 minutes. It was not a fight. It was an execution. The Vorn had never seen weapons like the ones humanity used. Railguns fired projectiles at 12% of the speed of light, crossing the distance between ships in the blink of an eye. Gravity beams grabbed enemy vessels and crushed them into balls of twisted metal no larger than a house. Drone swarms, each containing 1,000,000 tiny machines, poured into Vorn ships through the smallest holes and ate them from the inside out. The Vorn tried to fight back. Their weapons hit human shields and did nothing. Their missiles were shot down before they could get close. Their communications were jammed. Their sensors were blinded. They were not fighting an enemy. They were fighting a force of nature. High Arbiter, Morath watched his fleet die. Ship after ship exploded. Commanders he had known for decades screamed their final words and went silent. The tactical display, once filled with green-friendly markers, was now almost entirely red. Retreat. He screamed. All ships retreat. But there was nowhere to retreat to. Human ships were everywhere, moving in perfect coordination, anticipating every Vorn move before it happened. It was as if they knew what the Vorn were going to do before the Vorn knew themselves. On the station, Dr. Imgion stopped working and stared out a broken window. The sky was full of fire, but it was not her people burning. For the first time in hours, she allowed herself to hope Captain No Woo Jin. Barely conscious in his ruined command chair, watched through flickering screens as the Vorn fleet was torn apart. His ship had no weapons left. His crew was mostly dead. But he was alive. They were alive. About time, he whispered. One by one, the Vorn ships died. Some tried to surrender, but their calls were not answered. Some tried to run, but human vessels blocked every path. Some tried to fight to the end, but the end came quickly. In the council chamber, Ambassador Yoon Hannah stood and watched. Her gentle smile was gone. In its place was something that the other delegates had never seen on a human face before. It was cold. It was ancient. It was the look of a predator that had finally stopped pretending to be prey. The Miktari ambassador was shaking. The Orvani delegate was silent. Council Speaker Vellum sat frozen in his seat, his many eyes fixed on the screen. What are they? Someone whispered, no one answered. The last Vorn ship was the flagship High Arbiter Morith's personal vessel. It was the largest and strongest ship in the Dominion fleet, covered in the finest armor. Carrying the most powerful weapons, it lasted 30 seconds longer than the others, as his ship died around him. Orith managed one final transmission. His voice was no longer arrogant. It was small and frightened, the voice of a creature that had finally understood its mistake. What are you? He screamed. What are you? Fleet Captain Shin Hayan answered. His voice was calm. His voice was cold. His voice was humanity. We are what happens when you mistake kindness for weakness. The Vorn flagship exploded. High Arbiter Morith died without knowing why he had lost, and then there was silence. 800. Vorn ships had entered the battle. 0 survived. Not a single escape pod. Not a single surrender. Not a single survivor. The human fleet had not lost a single vessel. Across the galaxy, screens showed the aftermath. The wreckage of the Vorn fleet drifted through space like leaves after a storm. Human ships moved through the debris, rescuing survivors from the station, collecting the bodies of their dead. In the council chamber, no one spoke. The delegates of 300 species sat in their seats and said nothing. Some were crying. Some were praying. Some were simply staring at nothing, trying to understand what they had just witnessed. Ambassador Yoon Hannah turned to face them. Her expression was unreadable. The situation has been handled, she said quietly. Earth requires nothing from the council at this time. We will take care of our own people. No. She walked out. Behind her, the silence continued. No one knew what to say. No one knew what to do. No one knew what was going to happen next. The galaxy had just learned the truth about humanity, and the truth was more terrifying than anything they had ever imagined. That night, on 100 worlds, military leaders looked at their fleets and their weapons and their plans for conquest, and they quietly began to change their minds. And on Earth, Admiral Kung Teho stood alone in his office and looked at a picture of his grandchildren. He had hoped they would never have to know war. He had prayed for peace, but some prayers were not meant to be answered. Some lessons could only be taught in fire. He hoped the galaxy had learned, because if they made him do this again, he was not sure he could stop at just one fleet. 1 month after the battle, the Galactic Council met again in its great hall. The same 300 species sat in the same seats, but everything else had changed. The chamber was quiet. No one argued. No one laughed. No one spoke out of turn. And when the human delegation entered, every eye in the room followed them. Ambassador Yoon Hannah walked to her seat. It was no longer in the back row. A new seat had been prepared for her at the front, next to the eldest and most powerful species. She sat down with the same gentle grace she had always shown. Behind her came Admiral Kung Teho. He wore his uniform without decorations, as always. His face was calm, as always. But now, when he walked, the galaxy watched. Council Speaker Velum rose. His voice, once arrogant and dismissive, was careful and respectful. The Council recognizes Admiral Kung Teho of Earth. He has requested time to address the Assembly. He looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of delegates who had once laughed at his species. They did not laugh now. Thank you, Speaker Velum. I will not take much of your time. He paused, gathering his thoughts. When he spoke again, his voice was quiet but clear. For 80 years, humanity sat in this chamber and said very little. For 80 years, we watched and listened and learned. You called us weak. You called us young. You called us unimportant. And we let you believe these things. Some of you are wondering why. Why did we hide our strength? Why did we pretend to be less than we were? He looked at the Mktari ambassador, who could not meet his gaze. The answer is simple. We were afraid. Not of you. We were afraid of ourselves. A murmur went through the chamber. Admiral Khan continued. Before we reached the stars, humans spent thousands of years at war with each other. We invented weapons that could destroy cities in seconds. We created technologies that could have ended all life on our planet. And we used them. We used them on ourselves. When we finally looked up at the galaxy, we made a promise. We swore that we would not bring our violence to the stars. We hoped that we could be better. We hoped that kindness and patience would be enough. His voice grew harder. We were wrong. Kindness without strength is just an invitation to be destroyed. Patience without limits is just weakness with a better name. We learned this lesson the hard way, when 2,000 of our people died at Korra 7. So yes, we revealed ourselves. Yes, we destroyed the Vorn fleet. And yes, we would do it again, without hesitation, if any of our people were threatened. He looked around the chamber once more. But I want you to understand something. We could have conquered this galaxy. From the first day we joined this federation, we had the power to take everything. Every world. Every species. Every resource. We chose not to. We still choose not to. Humanity does not want an empire. We do not want slaves. We want what we have always wanted. Peace, trade, friendship, the chance to learn and grow alongside other species. That is still our wish. That has not changed. But there are things we will not accept. We will not accept attacks on our people. We will not accept threats to innocent lives. We will not accept bullies who think they can kill without consequence. He stepped back. This is not a warning. It is a statement of fact. Treat us with respect, and we will treat you with respect. Threaten our families, and we will respond. That is all I have to say. He returned to his seat. The silence in the chamber was complete. After a long moment, Council Speaker Velum spoke. Does any delegate wish to respond? No one moved. No one spoke. The species that had once dismissed humanity as children now sat silent, afraid to say the wrong word. Finally, the Orvani delegate stood. Her blue feathers were trembling, but her voice was steady. "I wish to apologize," she said. "On behalf of my people and on behalf of this council, we were blind. We were arrogant. We judged humanity by its appearance rather than its actions. We were wrong." She looked at Ambassador Yunhana. "And I wish to say thank you. The Vorn were a threat to all of us. No one had the courage to stop them. Humanity did what we were too afraid to do." She sat down. A few other delegates nodded in agreement. In the weeks that followed, the galaxy changed. The Vorn Dominion surrendered unconditionally. Their empire was dissolved, their conquered worlds were freed, and their military was disbanded. The species they had oppressed were finally able to go home. Other aggressive powers looked at what had happened and quietly changed their plans. Wars that had been brewing for decades were suddenly canceled. Invasions were called off. Treaties were signed. No one wanted to be the next species to face the human fleet. Dr. Imjian returned to Earth as a hero. She had saved dozens of lives during the attack, working without rest, without hope, without fear. When she stepped off the transport ship, she found Admiral Kang waiting for her. "Thank you," he said simply. "You showed us what we were fighting for." She shook his hand. "Just doing my job, sir. Same as anyone would." "No," he said, "not the same as anyone. Better." Captain No Wu Jin was promoted to Admiral. His ship, the HFY, was rebuilt and placed in a museum as a symbol of courage. He visited it sometimes when he wanted to remember what it felt like to face impossible odds and refuse to run. Ambassador Yoon Hannah continued her work at the council. She still spoke softly. She still smiled gently. But now, when she spoke, everyone listened. One day a young delegate from a small species approached her. His world had been conquered by the Vorn for 50 years. Now they were free. "Ambassador," he said nervously, "I wanted to thank you. When my people were suffering, no one helped us. No one cared. But you did. You freed us." Yoon Hannah looked at him with kind eyes. "We did not free you for thanks," she said. "We did not free you because we expected something in return. We freed you because it was the right thing to do. That is all we have ever wanted. To do what is right, even when it is hard. Even when it is dangerous. Even when no one is watching." She put a hand on his shoulder. "You are not alone anymore. None of you are. Humanity will stand with anyone who needs our help. That is our promise. And humans always keep their promises." The young delegate bowed and walked away. He would tell his people what she had said. He would tell his children, and they would tell their children. Far away on Earth, Admiral Kang Tai-ho stood on a cliff overlooking the ocean. General Park Seok stood beside him. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of gold and red. "Do you think they understand now?" Park asked. Tong was silent for a long moment. "They understand fear," he said finally. "Fear is easy. They have seen what we can do, and they are afraid to test us. That is enough for now, and later. Later, they may understand respect. They may see that we use our power wisely, that we do not bully or conquer or threaten. They may learn to trust us." He turned to face his old friend. "And someday, maybe generations from now, they may understand friendship. They may see us as partners, not as masters. They may see us as equals, not as threats. That is my hope. But that will take time. Yes, it will take time. It will take patience. It will take kindness, even when kindness is hard." Admiral Kong smiled slightly. "Fortunately, we have had a lot of practice at being patient." He looked back at the ocean, where the last rays of sunlight were disappearing beneath the waves. Somewhere out there, beneath the water, the great shipyards were quiet. The warships were sleeping again. But they would be ready. They would always be ready. That night, Earth received a message. It came from 100 different worlds, from species that had been conquered, ignored, and forgotten. Species that had watched humanity stand up for the weak when no one else would. The message was simple. Just 2 words. Thank you. Earth sent a reply. It was also simple. Just 4 words. You are not alone. The galaxy had changed. Humanity had changed it. And in the silence that followed, a new kind of peace began to grow. It was not the peace of fear. It was not the peace of exhaustion. It was the peace of hope. And for the first time in 10,000 years, the galaxy began to believe that maybe, just maybe, everything was going to be all right.